Welcome. I'm Mama G, and Web3 is my passion. I'm here today to talk to you and welcome you into this opportunity to hear about the things that I'm presenting for those of you who are parents, carers, and digital guardians who want to make sure that their children, their charges are safe in the digital space. There's a lot about this in the media. I know that there's much expertise that's coming out and many books have been published. But what my desire is to create a safe space for all of you to be together, to learn from each other, and also to be able to integrate your faith as a Christian, to be able to discover how a Christian might approach some of these challenges if you aren't quite sure of that, and to be supported in working out a way that will protect and guide your children into a future that we don't even know what that will look like. So I want to start today from John 14, simply a scripture that Jesus prayed for us. And when he said, "Let not your heart be troubled, do not be afraid." It is such an important thing that we know how to guard our hearts. If we are told that we may let not our hearts be troubled, then we're making a decision as to how to do that. And some of that will come from blind faith. And I wouldn't call that blind. I'd call that, importantly, a faith that understands that there are some things we don't understand, and yet we trust that he does. However, there are some things we can do. Why does Jesus say, "Let not"? Because we can decide to put things in place that give us the confidence. Some of that will be knowledge, some of that will be learning, experiencing one another's opinions and approaches, and taking advice from those who are further ahead in the line of duty, if you like. So I want us to know how we can build our support for those things not to trouble us and not to make us fearful. It's much more than simply saying to ourselves, everything's going to be all right. God's in charge. Yes, he is in charge, but he gives us some responsibility to educate and inform ourselves and to put certain structures in place. So that's what Mama G and Web3 is all about. I don't think I've found so far anywhere where there's someone promoting an active Christian faith integrated with the new research and information that's coming out. Some of the information is scaremongering as well. There's so much out there that we could be very tempted to put our head in the sand or shut our doors and pull out all our Ethernets and switch off all our Wi-Fi networks and say we need to watch our children like hawks. But that's going to backfire. We know ourselves the things that we were refused access to became forbidden fruit, and we don't want that to happen. So how do we go about not feeling troubled in this world, in this emerging new digital reality? Well, let me tell you a little bit about me so you feel like you're in good hands, and I hope that you will very soon. I am a person who's grown in my life through a career in nursing, and that has been a love-hate thing, really, for me. I would say always that I love people, but I don't like bureaucratic and institutional work. So having been in both private sector and public sector, and also the educational sector, I have learned a lot about how to enjoy the people around me and contribute to those relationships, whether they be peers or colleagues or patients, but also recognizing that there are some things that I just can't change, and one has to choose how you can prosper within the limits of your control. So I'm bringing that idea into our position as adults with children we're responsible for in a world that we can't control. We love those children. We love what they're going to be able to become. We want to enable them to grow in the best way possible, to become advanced, mature, and well-rounded young people. That's the essence of what discipleship is. But discipleship is changing and needs to change for our children to have half a chance of holding on to or finding a faith in God within a chaotic and very volatile world. So what's my context for doing this? I've been working towards this launch for quite some time, building the material, the understanding, and having just celebrated a 60th birthday, I really feel like God's hand of blessing and favor and timing is on this right now for me to really bite the bullet and say, come on, guys, let's all go on this journey together and support one another. Let's build an intergenerational forum in which we don't just rehash all the knowledge and all the information, which is vital, but we actually have somewhere we can respond to it and we can navigate with one another how to help our own specific children and our guardian charges, whatever that relationship may be. I just recently went to an immersive exhibition of the Van Gogh Immersive in London and had a fantastic time in a couple of different experiences. One was wearing the Meta headset and actually being within the world that Van Gogh painted, or Van Gogh if you're in America. Actually seeing that environment, looking all around me within that virtual reality, the scenery, the people and the landscapes, all in the eyes of Van Gogh's brush strokes and his colour palette. It was amazing. And then another room, we sat in a large empty room where every wall and all the floor was a projection of some of the paintings and the works that he did. We have petals falling everywhere, sunflowers populating the walls. And it was full of quotations as well from his thousands of letters. This was a very troubled man, as I'm sure you realise and remember, only lived to be 37. And he died 135 years ago. And here we are in modern day life, still interpreting and reinterpreting and reprojecting his ideas, his art, and in ways that are completely fascinating still to a new audience. And I thought, wow, what a legacy for someone to have died 135 years ago and still we are wanting to work with and reinterpret and reuse those ideas that he had. And I thought, we want to be able to make such an impact on our children and their children, somehow that our thread of investment in them will run right through and continue to be value and add value to them and to their next generation. So takeaway for you today, I'm going to make two offers really. The nature of this conversation today for us all to just listen and enjoy and be part of, and we will give chance to have some interaction if you would like, but also to be able to answer a potential need. And if it's your need or if it's the need of someone you know, at the end, I am going to make an offer. I'm going to suggest to you something which you can subscribe to and belong to and be part of along the next few weeks and months to go. I'm committing to serve a community called Digital Disciplers, and I'll explain a bit more about what that looks like. But the webinar itself may be of use to you. You might want to share, you might want to put it out there and show people that you know are struggling a little bit with knowing how to handle this whole smartphone, safe screens, screen aware kind of issue that's going around. So we do have research that's coming out. We have the beginnings of a study or of a body of knowledge about the impacts of digital on our children's minds. And there are some names that are coming out that are leading in this area. And one of the books that came out a year ago was called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And he has a very active LinkedIn page. And by all means, search that and see what you think about the things he pulled together in his book, which was really fascinating, quite sobering, bit worrying really, that we have a generation of children, we call them Gen Z or Gen Z if you're in America, who have been our guinea pigs. and they have suffered enormously in terms of burden of emotional impacts, confidence, anxiety issues, and distraction and poor attention spans impacted learning. Lots and lots of negative influences that have come out of those being given a smartphone, especially those who had a smartphone as against a digital phone, those that were exposed to social media without us really understanding in the earlier years of those algorithms impacting their brain development and causing a kind of delay and an addictive process that has impaired their ability to enjoy free play, entertain themselves, critique things for themselves, have any kind of attention span. We have done them no favors whatsoever, and it's time. Definitely the alarm bells have sounded. We also have a psychologist in the UK called Charlotte Armitage. She's delivered a TED talk. She's published recently her book called The Zombie Generation. Again, it's speaking from her experience as a mom and also as a psychologist who's responsible for some children that are in film and media to make sure that they are safe within the experiences they are exposed to. And from her counsel and from her psychological practice, she can definitely see that we are treading on very dangerous ground when we don't pull up and stop and think to ourselves, how am I going to help my child not to be dependent on this device? And yet, I'm very sure of this too. We don't want to be Luddites of a modern world. We don't want to lock up all our devices and not enable children to learn self-discipline and learn to be able to integrate digital and reality. They have to be prepared for a career prospect that will not look anything like what we were prepared for. And we can't afford for them not to be digitally savvy, and they are confident already far beyond many of our generation. So we have to equip them. We have to enable them to learn the skills that they will need. And this can come earlier rather than later. And yet it needs to be with our guardianship and with our safety railings around everything that is just almost automatically being forced down their throats. And so how do we do this? There are digital parenting experts. There's one called Elizabeth Milovidov, and she has a Facebook group called Digital Parenting. Again, it's a place of massive amounts of resources and tips. And I recommend that you go there and try that. But where do we go if we want to integrate a faith in Jesus Christ, a love of the Bible, a knowledge of the principles of the Word of God, and yet not have to have this sort of uneasy grip, this tension or this grinding, this friction between our biblical faith and the digital tools and interfaces that our children have to navigate. We need to be able to give them wisdom, not just knowledge. And so this is the passion that I have, that we don't just pendulum swing from one extreme of overexposure and addiction and despair and some of those very sad cases of suicide by children who have not been able to get their parents' help in time to manage what's happening to them, to the other extreme of locking away devices and not being able to engage with one another because we've forgotten how and not knowing how to work together with devices over a relational sort of context. So how does all this converge to become Mama G and Web3? Well, my 45 years as a believer, as a Christian, serves in some way to equip me to bring insights that I would have as a believer into the digital space. And the conversations that we're all having have a very biblical basis if we want to interpret things in that way. And I want to have a space for us where we can ask questions about how does parenting work as a Christian? How does the church begin to serve this need if it can? And if it can't, how can we equip those within our church to understand the needs and the provision that's available? This all came about because as an individual, a learning person that loves to learn, a person that loves to imagine, as a bit of an introvert, I spend a lot of time thinking and working out patterns. And I also believe that my relationship with God speaks to me. He speaks to me in very pictorial ways, through dreams and through waking insights and understandings. And so it goes back a long way through journaling as well, that lots of pieces of the jigsaw seem to be coming together to have equipped me to be able to use my teaching desires and gift, to use my love of people, and that my new position as a grandmother of only 4 months, to really use this as all as a platform to offer this relationship we could have internationally, digitally, remotely, making the most of these digital attributes, but releasing you all in your genuine, physical, loving relationships to do a great job of preparing your children for the internet metaverse age, which we are well into. So that's my passion as a teacher, as a carer, as a grandmom. A very prophetic kind of way of thinking about things. God's been just opening my eyes to the importance of gatekeeping as an intercessor as well of the digital space, of praying over what is growing within there, what is being prospered, what needs to be resisted. And we can do that in prayer together. So we can do that on a basis of our relationship with each other, our name charges, those children that we love, whether or not we choose to protect their identity in a safe space or not, but to certainly share our needs, get prayer, and get support. So Acts 5:20 is something that came as a command into my life many, many years ago. And I'll be honest, I haven't been as overt with the instruction that I should have been. I have written books, I've written overt novels. I have really used my imagination to help to slip in to people's thinking some of the concepts about life, eternity, frustration, destiny, all of that, but not in as overt a way as I would have liked. And I know that the time is right now for me to really do what Acts 5:20 says, which is to take my stand in the temple and declare the whole gospel of God, the whole gospel of life. And we are now living life in a style and a form that we've never known. It's quite disconcerting. We have world chaos, we have financial crises. You don't need me to list all that's going on out there. And not only that, but now this new level of living in a kind of augmented reality or a virtual reality, and navigating how far we put our feet into that as well, as parents or as children growing within various spaces and levels of immersion. It's something we've never experienced. And I want this to be a platform where I can help both me honor that call to take my stand and use that knowledge and use that experience, but also to help you to take your stand, either as a family leader, as a community leader, as a parent, wherever and however far that influence may go, that you are able to declare the whole truth of what life is. And that will mean guarding, equipping, and inspiring with a biblical foundation for life to interpret these very chaotic and very vulnerable times. So enough about me. You've got my heart. I just want you to know that all of this takes place under the umbrella of the banner, make fun of faith, because faith is something that can be seen as stuffy or just for the holier than thou. We know it's not. We know we all are in need of belief in God. We know how much value, how much stability, how much strength that's added to our lives. But sometimes it's not seen as something that would be fun, and not seen as something that can be flamboyant or lively. And it is if we really have that vibrant relationship through the Holy Spirit with God, because we know Jesus, then there's so much we can bring into 21st century living. So all of this is under the umbrella, make fun of faith. No, not to poke fun at faith, but to make it fun. And so that our children will enjoy and have fun within the context of learning about God and being protected for life in him. So one of the other offshoots of this under that umbrella is a book called Trunked, which is a children's book of adventure about growth and character in team and escalation in all of the things of growth in God. And I won't talk about that very much here today, but just so you understand that these sort of digital opportunities that are coming for me might look like me adding a script to a game designer for their ability to put out in the world a game, an engaging, immersive, exciting, character-forming game, which would reward things like honesty and generosity and teamwork and camaraderie, rather than notching up shots and destruction of shop fronts and killing one another. So it's a game which comes under that umbrella, the books which come under that umbrella, and this community, which I will tell you more about at the end. That's the big picture within my broad discipleship soaked philosophy. And it's the flow of fruition is my philosophy. We all want to grow and become bigger from who we are in Christ to where we're put, to how we will flow in function, what roles we will take place in life, and then how we will become big in influence, impacting in our stature, in favor with God and with man, and then become attractive to all who yet need to know who he is and how he makes us tick. So the flow of fruition is the philosophy of discipleship, as I call it. Making fun of faith is an approach to opening up a world of adventure for people who love gaming and adventure through play, and digital disciplers being those of us who maybe want to hand on some wisdom and yet need one another's support to grow our children in a new landscape that we didn't grow up in. So that's the big picture. And I suppose this has been evolving for so many years for this time, which is a kairos time. It's the Greek word kairos, means the now time, this window of opportunity, where all things that come together and converge for this moment are here now for you to be able to use and take advantage of. So the digital space then, the Web3 landscape, which is at the moment just pockets of three-dimensional immersive realities. Not all of them are joined together. They're not all owned by the same people. They're not engaging with the customer base in the same way. It's quite disconnected. And there will be a day where some of this comes together in a way that will then become more uniform. And there is a concern amongst the digital expert community that might suggest a monopolization, and that it could mean one world ruler type scenario. We really don't know yet, but the fact is the metaverse is here. It's not going away. Artificial intelligence is populating it very, very quickly, with all the pros and cons that brings as well. And our children, ourselves, are engaging with the metaverse in some way or other, however minimal, and it will increase. If you've never seen the film Ready, Steady, Play, go and have a look at that and you'll get a very good idea of one person's concept of what it will look like to live in the real world, but actually be separated from it through headsets and actually living in a disjointed way with reality within a digital narrative that one explores and sees and encounters. It's hard for us to understand, but if you've ever worn a Meta headset or you've ever tried an Oculus some years ago, you'll know that it's still very clunky, but we are increasingly going to be wowed by the opportunities. Just as I said, the visit to London has more and more and more every time you go. Everywhere, the hoardings are now digital. The great big screens in Piccadilly Circus are almost coming at you from the surface of the screen. It's quite overwhelming, but it's increasing everywhere, and we really need emotional resilience. We really need to be able to critique these things, to not lose our mental health over some of it, which could confuse. I mean, who hasn't been confused by some of the fake reels and fake news and misinformation? Our children need us so badly to be able to navigate these things. So you're here, you're already parents perhaps, or grandparents, you're already navigating all the things that children need to learn, like how to eat without making a mess, how to navigate road safety, how to learn their letters, to speak and to interact and give you eye contact and say please and thank you. All those typical things that parenting is always entailed. And now, all the while, we need to be so aware of how we are, just by what we do and by what we show, educating our children who copy everything we do about the digital tools in our hands. The phone is the obvious one, and that's the one that's got the most people talking at the moment. How, for instance, do you manage your phone around your child, whether that be a baby or a teenager? It's always going to be another dynamic in the room. So how much you choose to look at it, touch it, lift it, put it away is going to have a bearing on the quality of your conversation. And yet within that, there is your bank, there are games, there are emails, there's the time, there's the graphs, the maps that we need to navigate. And so we have to find a way of doing this intelligently and consciously, with ability to say yes or no with the right motives for what we are using them. So we're masters of the machine isn't master of us. That reminds me as well of a quote by a Google executive who resigned a couple of years ago, Mo Gawdat, an expert in Google. He told this story one day about the Google officers who were experimenting with AI, and they had some of those robot arms, such as you see at entertainment places where you put in your money, your dime or your 10 pence piece. It's probably more like a pound or a dollar these days. And then the robot arm comes up and then comes over, and you have to direct it to pick up a soft toy or a piece of chocolate. So they had an AI robot arm amongst thousands on this one level, this one whole level of their building, which was populated with robots. And they had one robot that had to learn to pick up this ball and drop it in another position. And nothing was happening. There were random movements. Every time he stopped, he looked through the door, the window in the door, onto the floor level of that building, and saw all these random movements of the robot arms. And then one day, one of the robot arms had learned and clicked onto how to pick up the ball and move it. He saw that, and the next day he looked and saw through the window all of those robots were doing exactly the same thing. They had all learned overnight how to pick up that ball. That's really crazy story. And the thing that came out of that was very definite disconcertion with how AI will reach, in his view, it's only his view, it's not everybody's view, but there are some who believe that they will reach a state where there is a sentience. That means an ability to think creatively and aware with a self-awareness. And he made this quotation to Stephen Bartlett in the Diary of a CEO podcast. And he said, "We must be good parents to the machines." In other words, we have to make sure what we are teaching them is what we want them to do. So our behavior will be modeled and reflected back from the machines. And how much more is that with our children? And whether it be machines that can or may learn, or our children, we have to be good parents so that what we are creating does not backfire on us. So I want to suggest to you that this is the age more than ever, if there has ever been an age where we were crying out for discipleship, this is it. This is it, where we have to integrate our children in wisdom thoroughly from the beginning of their lives. We cannot afford any more. We've done it with television, we've done it with MTV, we've done it with the internet. We cannot afford anymore to let these things parent our children. We are the ones who must form them and train them and teach them in the ways that they should go. So I want you to think how maybe it would benefit you to be in a community where that kind of thing is available to you. We have more than ever a need for cross-generational influence and learning, where we can impart wisdom, grace, love across our peers as influencers, as parents. Call it parents. That's a kind of a loose name for anyone who is looking after a junior or a minor. We have to rely on those who went before us and those who will be amongst us to learn the most. It says it takes a whole village to raise a child. Well, it takes a whole generation to mark and to create the next generation. So I want us to have a passion for those, perhaps the children who are here or those who are not yet here, those who are already here, who are geeks, gamers, who are addicts to gaming or social media already. We know we've done some damage, but let's see what we can do and really help to bear one another's burdens. Let us stand in the gap for one another in this time. And this is what brings me now to my offer to you to explain that this is something which is far, far bigger than any one person can cover. And I'm glad there are experts and there are resources and there are podcasts and there are books that we can buy. And I've read a few of them already, and they are helping so much to alert me to the importance of us really intentionally creating the way that our children should go. So there's two developments in this. One of them is much more of a personal thing. For me, I've taken up a call to intercede for the metaverse. And you can connect with me if you want to know more about that. But why I'm bringing you here to the end of this webinar today is just to say, look around you, there's people on this call, and there will be some every month who get to know about this. And that community can grow and increase. If you would like to be part of that community, or you know someone that would, by all means, show them this link, share it with them, let them see the recording, and for you or for them to then go away and register for Digital Disciplers. It's a private Facebook group, and there's a subscription for that. And every month I'll be charging you £14.99 in English pound for the privilege of being able to have a safe space where that conversation is shared within the group, but it doesn't go beyond that group. And where you might feel that you want to raise questions that you can't raise in your own personal community or family, or where you might feel led to learn from someone else who is ahead of you in the discipleship or parenting role in the digital space, because we are in it now. You know, this is forming every decision we ever make, whether it's paying a bill or looking after an elder relative. It's affecting everything. So I want you to consider whether you would like to join that special community, Digital Disciplers. And the link to register and subscribe is going to be in the feed. And I will also make sure you get that in the replay that will be sent out to you from today. So Digital Disciplers is my new community. As Mama G, I do have a YouTube channel, and I'll be adding content to that, which is entirely free. And there will be additional conversations that will always be taking place that anyone can join in and just view and see whether they feel anything resonates with them about helping them with their parenting. The word of the Lord to the nations is that we look after the future, that we create them in the image of God, and that we make sure that they are raised so that they can be ambassadors, they can inherit the earth, so that they can rule and reign, and that they can be effective witnesses, and they can take the message of the gospel to the ends of the earth. And we always wanted that for our children, but increasingly they have some fights to fight, but we can fight many of them on their behalf. They also have new territory to take, and we need to equip them for that territory. Maybe they themselves will be coders and game designers. Maybe they themselves will be able to create virtual worlds that will be evangelism outreaches, that will enable people to engage with the truth without any cost or investment or travel, and reach into areas of the world which are still closed to the truth, which is Jesus Christ, the light of this world. So, you know, we are doing something amazing here, not only for our own immediate family offspring, but for those that will come and for those who need to find a way of living for Jesus in the virtual space. So I see this as new territory. I see it as a brand new pioneering evangelistic ground. And I see myself as a prophetic missionary. And I want to equip you to take up your role, whatever that may be, as one of the fivefold ministries, or maybe as one of the ways in which you can express your spiritual gifting, but not just in a physical world, in the digital space. And for your children to do just the same, and to thrive and to prosper, to have all the skills they need, all the confidence they need, and all the spiritual warfare tools that they need as well, to survive and thrive and not be sucked into the darkness and the recesses and the occupation of evil, which has already taken root in some corners of the metaverse and will do without our involvement. So I have just commit to you my desire to help you on that journey, to serve you as Mama G and Web3 on digital parenting. We will collect together resources. We will not try and reinvent the wheel. There are people out there bringing great research together. Let's just get hold of it and work out how to use it for God. So I just leave you now today, inviting you to consider extending your role as a Christian, your call to be a living stone, not just in this world, but in the digital space. We have this kind of unique three-way relationship with the heavenly realm, the digital realm, and with the physical realm, and we can rule and reign, and we can triangulate all of those different things that we have to do in this one life that we have to create those that follow us in the image of God. And thanks for coming. Follow me on Mama G and Web3, and find me on Instagram at Jill Dares. And if you would like to see much more about the wider scope of the books, the game, and my involvement at all with anything digital, then look for me on Linktree/Jill Dares. And you spell that linktr.ee/Jill Dares. Jill with a G, of course, that's Mama G. See you next time, and don't forget to subscribe if this is something for you. So if it's not for you, that's fine. Just keep an eye on the YouTube channel. I'll see you next month.